What's going on, everybody? So, about to get into this. Hold on real quick. Get some more people in here.
Like you can't go act it out. Meaning, like you go to a funeral and you see somebody just sobbing, like emotional. You can feel the pain. They just lost a husband, a father, a mother, a daughter. You can feel the pain in a person. A similar feeling is about to happen when I shoot 2 videos of entrepreneurs. One is a lady who runs a restaurant in California, and you have to hear her voice when she's sitting there telling me, I'm losing everything. What else do you want me to do when I'm going through this? The video got 9 million views on Twitter, and another one is. When a reporter in Michigan is just reporting the fact that this restaurant owner kept the restaurant open, and all of a sudden the restaurant owner just shows up out of nowhere, and you have to hear his reaction. Both impromptu, no preparation, no scripted. They're just telling you what they're going through, and you're going to feel their pain. Let's look at the first one here. It's called Pineapple Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks, California. Here's how it goes.
So this is my place, the Pineapple Hill Grill and Saloon. If you go to my page, you can see all the work I did for outdoor dining, for tables being 7 feet apart. And I come in today because I'm organizing a protest, and I came in to get stuff for that.
Watch this.
And I walk into my parking lot, and obviously Mayor Garcetti has approved this. Has approved
Watch what she's about to show.
This being set up for a movie company.
Hollywood. Which is fine. But it's fine if you allow her to do her thing as well.
I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here.
Look at it. 20 yards.
And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this.
This is hypocrisy at its best. What is the difference between what she's
Tell
doing?
me that this is dangerous, but right next to me as a slap in my face.
Is she wrong? Is she wrong for saying that?
That's safe.
This is not politics, by the way. It's not Democrat, Republican. Is she
50 feet
wrong?
away?
I don't know. This is
This is
infuriating.
dangerous. Mayor Garcetti and Gavin Newsom is responsible for every single person that doesn't have unemployment, that does not have a job, and all the businesses that are going under. And we need your help. We need somebody to do something about
man.
this.
You feel it. I totally feel your pain, man. Oh my gosh, just listen to that. It's painful. Watch this. Are you surprised when you see something like that? Why Wall Street Journal comes out a couple of days ago, December 4th, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has told friends and associates he plans to move to Texas. Not Tesla. Elon Musk plans to move to Texas. Goldman Sachs from New York. Watch what they're doing. When you think about Goldman Sachs, the only thing about one place, New York, is reportedly planning to shift one of its divisions to Florida, joining some Wall Street firms' moves out of New York. Then you have HP, the company that literally started Silicon Valley. CNN is a company that literally started Silicon Valley, moving to Texas. 55,000 employees. Charles Schwab, leaving California for Texas, came out with this lady, did a fundraiser. She's raising money to, if you support what she's talking, you can go, support the message and, support her on the GoFundMe. But this is just one business. Now watch. I don't sit there and say, well, Governor Newsom and Mayor Garcetti are evil people, because there's a lot of people that say they're evil. Let's just say they are. I have a hard time going there. I have a hard time believing they are totally evil people and they want to see people like them go out of business. They want to hurt people. I can't fully believe that. But what I do believe is the following. There's a big difference between, in sales, when you're selling whatever you sell, we always say use the grandma rule. If you're able to sell a product to your grandma, then you can sell it to other people. But if you can't sell this product to your grandma or your own family, your own blood, you can't sell it to other people. Why are you selling to other people and you don't buy it yourself? It's the grandma test that we always talk about. What if this was Garcetti's sister? What if this is Garcetti's? What if this is Newsom's sister? You think she would be going through that situation? That's somebody's sister. That's somebody's daughter that's going through this. She's not faking it. She's not trying to be a billionaire. This is not a billionaire driving a Lamborghini, living in a $10 million home. This is a small business owner who's got people working for her, counting on a $10 an hour job, $15 an hour job with the tips to pay their bills. They're not saying bail me out. They're not saying I just want to take handouts. They're saying let me work. Let me get back to work. Watch what happens here in Michigan. Similar story. They're doing the basic reporting. This lady's asking the questions a minute long. Watch in the middle of this interview what takes place. Watch this here.
News Channel 3's Jabari is able to
This is Michigan.
footage with the details on why the judge said no. Jabari, is everything okay?
Our government leaders have abandoned me. Are you the owner? $1 billion of stimulus money. They gave it to who? Special Infrastructure Campaign donors. I'm Dave Morris. I own the place. So what's going on? What's going on? You know what's going on. Tell me. You tell me. Hey, we got a government that has taken the stimulus money. They gave it to special campaign donors. They gave it to special interests. They abandoned me. And they have put me in a position where I have to fight back. So if they're giving me money, I'd gladly walk away for 60 days and let this virus settle down. I'm not going to do it alone. Okay?
Are you going to continue to violate the state's orders and
This
stay
is
open?
a state order. This isn't an order. This is a conspiracy. This is a tyranny.
What do you want to tell other restaurant owners who
Wake up.
He's not lying about being a tyranny.
Be free. It's time to rise up. You got to rise up. Shut it all down, or don't shut any of us down. That's the only way to get control of a virus.
He's not lying, though. When you listen to someone like that, he's not lying. By the way, you're feeling the pain of people here. This isn't somebody that just was paid to act. This isn't somebody that just says, hey, go say this. Here's a script. Read these cards that we're holding up. Go through this teleprompter. No. It's pain. It's in the middle of it that this is taking place. So what do you do with a situation like this? A couple different things. Number one, if you are going through this and you're not being vocal and your Garcetti type of mayor is not hearing it and you're not getting out there to get this message out to folks like a Governor Newsom or Cuomo, then you're not doing your part. You got to get this message out. And there's, by the way, you may not be thinking about they're listening. They have to listen. The messaging is out there. We're doing it. We're putting this stuff out there for people to hear. But this is what I will say for anybody that's a local small business owner to support them. Here's what I'd be doing. Anybody that's a small restaurant, you're a small business owner, we support. Last night, we went to a nice little restaurant, small business owner. I know this Asian man that owns this restaurant. We took the kids, and the kids are like, but I don't like this. My son wanted, I don't like this food. You're going to eat this food. Why? Because they have great food. You just don't like this. You're going to try this food here. But we smart this local business owner. And the guy came about, and he's like, hey, how you doing? Can I get you some ice cream? Treated us royally. I support that small business owner. I support a small business owner, Greek restaurant on Sundays. I support them. And once a week, tip 40%. Once a week, if you can. Tip the best service, you get 40%. And if you're saying, Pat, but I live in California, all the restaurants are closed. Do DoorDash, do Uber Eats, do whatever you can to do takeout. You got to keep these people in business. It's not just about their money. They matter to you just as much as you matter to them. They got to be around so one day when your kid wants to get a part-time job, he ends up working with one of these guys or one of them. It's not about just making sure they stay in business for them. Long-term, your community benefits by the small business owners stay in business. Why? Because nearly 50% of all jobs in America are created by small business owners, not the multi-billion-dollar companies. 50% of all jobs in America are created by small business owners. And here's the last one. If your governor or the mayor doesn't want to do anything about it and you stay there, that's your fault. It's not their fault. Because if somebody abuses their power against you and you don't do nothing about it, it's no longer their fault. It's your fault. We left Iran. we came here. I know what it is to be a small business owner going through the pain. I remember what it was in 2011, 2012, when I'm going through small business that I'm building, and I put all my life savings into the business.
When I came on the case, Kiki Camarena had been kidnapped and tortured by the drug lords because he had caused them great losses in seizing 10,000 tons of marijuana in Chihuahua, Mexico. At the very beginning, I started to think something's wrong here.
In '89, they signed you to go investigate what really happened with Kiki Camarena and those that assigned people to know about this. So can you kind of give us the challenges you guys faced before getting this story to be released to the public?
Well, quite frankly, the CIA, of course, were highly opposed to the story that I'm putting out, which is the truth regarding Camarena's death. And of course, the DEA is also not very happy with the fact that after 30 years, their whole narration, their fake story, basically has been exposed by me because Kiki Camarena was basically killed on orders of our own government.
So because of that, CIA, the fact that the orders were given by our own government to kill Kiki Camarena, you're saying people still till today don't want that story to be told, even though that was 30 plus years ago?
That is totally correct. Kiki Camarena was ordered kidnapped to be interrogated because he had unknowingly stumbled into a CIA NSC covert gun running operation. They were supplying weapons secretly to the Nicaraguan Contras.
Got it. And so you know how sometimes, like, I'm from Iran, and there was a movie that came out about Iran called Argo, which Ben Affleck was in it. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not. It was a story about what happened in the revolution in Iran in '79. And they didn't want to tell the story about how this organization came out with a fake movie, and they were able to go to Iran and get a lot of the U.S. Folks that were, held hostage over there. And he was able to release them to a fake movie that they were making. But the story was told 30 years later. Why is it such a challenge that they don't want the story to be told? Because it's not like it's the current president or the prior president. What's their biggest fear if we find out the truth about what happened with Kiki?
Well, currently, with the FBI being exposed to be basically a corrupt agency, the CIA doesn't want to be accused of being the same thing. They don't want it to be exposed to this date that they were involved in ordering Camarena picked up, interrogated, and subsequently tortured. And of course, the DEA, who was at that juncture working in complicity with the CIA, they were working in partnership. They also did not want it exposed that Camarena basically was ordered kidnapped and interrogated by the CIA.
Why though?
Why? Because this shows complicity on their part. Here, the DEA is supposed to be fighting the war on drugs, and the CIA is the major cartel bringing in like 80% of the cocaine in the 80s. So here we had working for an administration that was okay with funding an unauthorized war in Nicaragua with drug monies. The CIA notoriously, because they don't work under constitutional law, no constitutional parameters, they're not a law enforcement agency. Notoriously, they have basically aligned themselves with criminal cartels, paramilitary groups from other countries, and also intelligence agencies from other countries to do whatever it takes, they say, in preserving the national security of the United States.
So Hector, now for some people that haven't read the book or they haven't seen the series on Amazon, is the lawsuit still pending, or that's been squared away and Amazon is now fine and secured with the show continuing to show on Amazon?
I understand that they've got it squared away, and there's no pending litigation as far as I know.
Got it. Okay. And did you know who wasn't wanting it to go out? Was it directly the CIA that was trying to prevent that from happening?
Well, I understand that. I don't want to get into that because basically there's no evidence that the CIA was the one that was pressuring or whatever, threatening Amazon. So I can't say that I know for sure, but I suspect it was the CIA.
I'm only saying that is because if that's the case, I mean, it's best for the audience to go see it in case, God forbid, Amazon takes it down and they won't be able to show it. You know, it creates a certain level of urgency for the audience to see what's really in that show. But let's go back and talk a little bit about your career. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame type of a career, you know. And if you were an athlete, you'd be in a Hall of Fame for what the work you've done. You know, they put you on a lot of different lists. Your name is constantly mentioned by a lot of different people. But why don't you walk us back and, you know, share with us a little bit about some of the things you worked on as a DEA agent, and how did the Kiki Camarena project, you know, come to you? Who made the phone call? How did that happen? How did you get that assignment?
Well, I was assigned to work in Mexico, and I was sent to the hottest, most dangerous area, which was the Sinaloa area. Back then, it was a hotbed of violence and drug trafficking. And while there, I was involved in the longest shootout in the history of the DEA. I was involved in a shootout that lasted over 2 hours. During the shootout, we killed numerous Mexican, Colombian drug traffickers, and also we had 5 very seriously wounded MFJP agents. We were able to fight the aggression for, like I said, 2 hours. I was able to get the wounded out. And because of that, I was basically brought back to Washington and issued the U.S. Attorney General's Award for heroism. That kind of put the spot on me with the agency. At the time that happened, the Camarena investigation had been going on for about 4 years. They needed somebody that could aggressively pursue the perpetrators and somebody that could basically recruit eyewitnesses. So they brought me out of Mexico after that horrendous gun battle, and they put me in charge of the Enrique Camarena case.
What year was that?
That was in 1989.
That was in 1989 when you were put on the case. So the 2-hour shootout in Sinaloa was what, 84, 85?
88.
88. So you got the award in 88, and Reagan was president at the time.
Yes, I believe it was, yes.
Wow.
Okay. So you're in Sinaloa. By the way, where are you from yourself originally?
I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona.
You're from Tucson, Arizona, and your family, where's your family lineage from?
Well, I don't want to put out where my family is because I still have to protect them, but they're in Arizona.
But meaning, are you also Mexican yourself?
Well, I'm a Mexican heritage, but I was born in the United States.
Okay.
And my family has been here since the 1700s.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Fair enough. I only asked to know that, you know, if that was like when I was in the military and I was in the army, I speak 5 languages. They wanted to send me to Tikrit to go to Iraq because I spoke Farsi and I spoke all these other languages, and it was a leverage for me for them to leverage somebody like me to go there. I'm wondering if the DEA saw you as being the best person to go out there because you can also connect with the community.
Well, that was one of the reasons I could connect with the community. I knew the culture. I speak Spanish like a native Mexican. I could travel to Colombia, Bolivia, all over Central South America, working undercover, which I did, and I could blend easily, as you stated, because I speak Spanish fluently. When I was undercover in Colombia, I would identify myself as a Mexican citizen. I carried the identification credentials of a Mexican individual, and I could easily blend in and out of those countries and pose as a Mexican. And of course, while working undercover here in the United States, I spoke Spanish or speak Spanish so well whenever the traffickers were accusing me of possibly being an undercover DEA agent or an narc, I would say, "Listen, guy, would you help me get some green papers and maybe I can apply and get a job with those guys?" So they really trusted me and trusted me a lot.
I can see that. So when you were in Colombia as an undercover, what year was that?
Well, I was there numerous times, 82, also in the late 70s. I was in and out of Colombia. I was there, I don't know, 5 or 6 times.
So was it during the era of Pablo or no?
Absolutely. During the era of Pablo, I never went undercover into Pablo himself, but I did penetrate the Ochoa organization out of Medellin, Colombia. So yeah, I was in and out of Colombia.
Did you ever do anything with Steve Murphy and Javier Pena, or no?
No, because when I would go into Colombia, I would never meet the DEA agent stationed there. I stayed in hotels. I only communicated with the agents there via telephone. I was ordered never to go to the embassy, so that in case I was being followed, my undercover situation wouldn't be blown. So no, I never met him, even though I was in and out Colombia when they were there.
Got it. So 88, you're on that 2-hour shootout, one of the longest ever, if not the longest ever. You get an award for it. You come back in 89, they sign you to go investigate what really happened with Kiki Camarena. Who assigned you, and what is the assignment? Meaning, are they saying, hey, Hector, we want you to find out what really happened to Kiki, and those that assigned you was the DEA. So how was that process of you getting that assignment?
It was out of frustration, I think, because they had a specialized team that came out of New York that were assigned here to Los Angeles to investigate the Camarena murder case. These folks did not speak Spanish for the most part. They were used to working the Italian mob. They were an elite group, but they did not understand the culture of Mexico. They didn't understand the corruption and how deep it went. As a matter of fact, one time they brought me in from Mexico to ask me about the corruption. This is the Leyenda team that was investigating the case before me. And they asked me about the traffickers having basically carrying federal agent credentials and badges. And I said, no, they just don't carry the credentials and the badges. They hold the positions. And they go, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is that they not only carry the credentials and the badges, they actually are assigned 30 federal agents under their command. And I went on to give you an example. It would be like John Gotti being issued FBI credentials, but not just the credentials. He would also be a supervisor in the FBI, and they would assign FBI agents under Gotti's command. They said, wow, is it that bad, Hector? And I said, yes, it is that bad in Mexico. These cartel members actually hold government positions in all aspects of law enforcement in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And that's because of the corruption back then of the government, or is that's because, that was the model, or because corruption, they're being bought out?
It was corruption that had basically been, they took control of everything because of corruption. And it wasn't just back then. It continues to be that situation continues to exist today, and it's even worse today.
It's even worse today than the 80s.
Mexico in the 80s, it was that corrupt.
But it's worse today.
And it's worse today.
Interesting. So you get the assignment, and when you get the assignment, throughout the process, I'm assuming you kind of knew what was going on with Kiki. Were you yourself curious where you really wanted to take the job and go and investigate more for yourself?
Yes. One of the main reasons, too, that I was placed in charge of the investigation is because I had been a homicide detective before I came into the DEA. So they knew that I had homicide experience. When I came into the case, I was told that Camarena had been kidnapped and tortured by the drug lords because he had caused them great losses in seizing 10,000 tons of marijuana at the Buffalo Ranch growing area in Chihuahua, Mexico. That's what I was told and believed until I started looking into the case, and I called the agent that had been in charge of the Buffalo, Chihuahua seizures and asked him what Kiki's involvement was. And he told me, to my surprise, he said, Hector, Kiki Camarena had nothing to do with the seizure of the 10,000 tons of marijuana at Buffalo.
So that's an example of the deep state. So the deep state could get real deep. Go ahead and shoot my link. Anybody want to join? Yeah, you know what it is. But yeah, that's deep state. And deep state can happen in many ways. So, but I'm about to get into one of my favorite topics. I've been waiting to get into all day. Like, share, follow, and subscribe. Didn't already, and join. Drop the link down low. So have a discussion. Build with me.
They want the
We're about to go now to an interesting topic in which I cannot neglect.
Photographs in New York and Philadelphia and Paris. DocuSign lets me take care of the business side. I can get release forms, master service agreements, all sorts of contracts.
And then you go to the next one, wanting to chase the next thing, that experience that a lot of time in marriages comes to moments.
Hey, we about to get good, y'all. About to get into some good topics.
To keep it, or have we kept it because of some kind of a church or a belief that has made us believe that it's the right thing to do, or at some point this religion was used in a way to control the populace of not, pissing off each other. And I don't flirt with your wife because natural instinct, if I mess with your wife, you're going to be upset at me. If you flirt with my wife, I'm going to be upset at you. Is it a natural from us, or how much of it is an institution, a church, or a religion passed it down to us where we believe that? What do you think?
Well,
You know what I'm asking.
I do know what you're asking.
Yeah.
Human beings are incredibly complicated. Inside our head, we think there's one person, me. But it's actually a seething cauldron of competing motivations and goals. So we talked about drugs. The drug addict wants his cocaine. The drug addict also wants to be a good father. Now, a lot of the time the cocaine's going to win, but we've got these competing drives. So when you get married, there's a big part of you that wants to be a good husband for the rest of your life, but you can't help it. You're a human being. You got these competing drives that you see a pretty woman and you want to have sex with her. So we've got these things like the church, our community, our government that have been built up to support one of these drives. And if we don't think that's the right thing, nobody keeps us in the church these days. In the old days, if you wanted to be part of society, you had to go to the church or the synagogue or the mosque. These days, it's much more of a choice. A lot of people choose to do it, though, because they're identifying with one of those competing drives. They're saying that, yeah, I know I've got these interests in other women, but I don't like that part of myself. I like the good husband part of myself. And so I'm going to surround myself with these institutions that's going to help me stay a good husband. And I think that they're acting prudently, because how many people have an extramarital affair and 2 years later say, best thing I ever did? No, you don't hear that. You don't hear that. We know it's not a good idea. Just like we know eating that third donut is not such a good idea. It's a primitive drive. It doesn't necessarily have our future happiness in mind when it makes us eat that third donut or have the extramarital affair.
What a way of you put it. Oh my gosh. So
the three institutions you said,
church, religion, government, what was the other one?
Community.
Your community. Yeah. Powerful.
Very powerful
what you just said right there. Regarding anything else you have to share on the love side?
Yeah, there was something I wanted to say. Just give me a second.
We can come back. If it comes back,
let's come back.
Yeah, no problem. Because that topic is a deep topic. Let's go into politics. Okay, so politics for me is, and then we'll go into domination because I'm curious to know what you're going to say. By the way, I haven't even gone through my notes. Just the conversation alone, I'm enjoying this. Just so you know this. And I told you earlier, Daniel Lieberman. There's two of you. So. And both of you guys professors, so it's kind of like, it's conflicting which is which, but I know you've done your own speeches and his. But the next one is politics. For me, sometimes I look at people and I say, you just feel like a liberal to me, okay? In my mind. And I'll see someone, I'll just say, you feel like a conservative to me. And I'll see someone, I'll say, you're an independent. You're trying to play it safe. You're just kind of trying to stay in the middle, neutral. You don't want arguments. You're just kind of trying. I totally understand. I respect your point. Right? And it doesn't take long to realize if somebody's a Democrat or Republican or liberal or a conservative. It doesn't take hard. A few minutes of conversations, you can kind of figure out where people are leaning. It's not hard to ask this question. I've asked this question from Jordan Peterson. I've asked it from so many different people myself. I'm curious to know what your answer is going to be. Are we born somewhat liberal? Or, and are we born, some of us, from the day we're born, we're liberals, a part of us, and we're conservative, a part of us? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the answer is yes, but I think it's a very, very small tendency. And the reason why I say that is that if you look at individuals, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to find something they're born with that is leading them to a particular political ideology. But if you look at very, very large groups of people, thousands of people, little tiny things will come out in the averages. And we can see that. We can see that. People who have different kinds of upbringings, people who have different kinds of genes. There are very, very subtle influences that we can bring out in the averages.
So it's not genes, because so you're saying it's a small percentage.
It's a small percentage, yeah, but it's genes.
Yeah, because for me, I say, a guy asked me one time, how do we come up with political beliefs? I said, listen, tell me if you agree with this or if you see it's different. One is cultural. You were born Christian, you were involved in the Christian church, and everybody there was conservative, so you kind of grew up in that environment. So tradition. The other one is you had a falling out with somebody. Your dad was a Republican. He made a lot of money, but wasn't around. So you become a Democrat because you hate Republicans because all they care about is money. Or you grew up in a family that was a Democrat. They were all, let's just say financially they weren't doing well, and they were just kind of voting for a certain party. And you're like, okay, I don't want to go that route because I don't want to live that life. I'm going to go be a Republican. So you fight whatever somebody let you down in your life, so you go and become the opposite that somebody does. You hear this very common with some names. Then the other one is somebody took a liking to you. You grew up with not even any political beliefs. A coach liked you, a professor liked you, a teacher liked you, and they became a father figure or a mother figure that you didn't have in your life, and they happen to be a Republican. They happen to be a Democrat. And you say, no one in my life has been disinterested in me as this man is. I'm loyal to his beliefs. I want to be a Republican. And then there's people that just kind of want to, they had a big life-changing event that happened to them. You were in your house, and somebody came in and shot you with a gun, and you didn't like guns, and now you say everybody needs to have a gun because I got to protect myself. No one will ever come and shoot somebody, and my father or somebody, any type of gun. So a life-changing event that takes place. Would you say there's any other things outside of that that determine end up somebody being a liberal or a conservative?
Well, first of all, I think you make a great point that we believe that our political views are based on reason, but reason probably plays a very small role. It's the things you mentioned. And some of these videos on YouTube where they go to people on the streets and they read them something that a politician said. And they say, what do you think about that? I agree completely. It's, well, it turns out it was said by someone on the other side of the spectrum as you. Say, well, I disagree completely. But, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say, I think biology has something to do with it.
Tell me why.
So, it comes back to the whole thing about the brain chemicals. We've talked a lot about dopamine.
Sure.
Dopamine looks to the future, getting more, making the future a better place. We haven't spoken quite as much on what we call the here and now neurotransmitters. Those are the neurotransmitters that help us to experience the present. And typically what we experience in the present are sensory inputs, which you see, hear, taste, smell, touch, emotions, and interpersonal relationships. So some of those chemicals are going to be oxytocin, endorphin, endocannabinoid. If you are born where the future-oriented dopamine circuits are a little bit stronger, you're more likely to be liberal. If you're born where the here and now circuits are a little bit stronger, you're more likely to be conservative. And again, it's a small piece, but if you look at large groups of people, you can see the differences.
Very interesting. Can you talk about what you write about in your book, what you said in Hollywood, they measured to see what percentage of money was given to Obama versus Romney. The numbers are astronomically different. Can you elaborate on that, on how that comes about?
Yeah. So there are some people who we might call dopaminergic. All right. These are people who are very much focused on the future. Your listeners, I think, tend to be very dopaminergic. They're entrepreneurs. It takes an enormous amount of motivation, an enormous amount of drive to be an entrepreneur. By the way, and I failed. Great experience. And so it makes you more dopaminergic. Where else do we see dopaminergic people? Well, Hollywood, they're not entrepreneurs as much. They're seeing a different kind of dopaminergic. People in Hollywood are notorious for excess, right? They always want more. It's never good enough. It doesn't matter how many starring roles you've been in, you always need to have another. It doesn't matter how many mansions you have around the world, you always need another one. We were talking about marriage and how the divorce rate among the general population is 50%. During the first 5 years of marriage in Hollywood, the divorce rate is 80%. Because it's never good enough, right?
Is it because it's never good enough, or is it because temptation's all around you?
It's probably a little bit of both, but I think it's more it's never good enough. So Hollywood is a very dopaminergic place, and we clearly see that there is a strong bias towards the left in Hollywood. Almost all of the financial donations that were given to Democrats. Same thing in Silicon Valley. This is where we see the dopaminergic entrepreneurs. In Silicon Valley, they give all their money to the Democrats as well, and very little to the Republicans.
Interesting. Why is that, though?
Liberals have a name for themselves. They call themselves progressives. Liberalism is about making the world a better place. The criticism of it is that they try to make the world a better place by achieving utopia. And the only way you can do that is by having total control over society. But the goal is to make the world a better place, to plan our cities so that they will be less polluting and easier to get around, to determine what kind of education our children need.
So that was a quick brush over, basically, on just a few topics, you know. But I'll be back on. Appreciate everybody for coming. But I did want a few people on today, tonight. Guess I couldn't hear from them, so. But we're gonna do it again. See y'all soon. Peace.